Hi everyone, welcome to DOdaily, Wake Up to Walk. It's Des here, checking in for the final time this week. Really looking forward to the weekend and looking to put what ultimately has been a difficult week behind us. Of course, a Friday is a great opportunity for me to get out, attack the day, attack the weekend, process my thoughts and use what's happened to try to be really positive and enthusiastic about whatever's next. Got a nice weekend to look forward to. I'll explain a bit more about that. But of course, wow, what a week it's been in this fantastic city, this place that I'm so proud of, the place I go about talking about, enthusing about the things I can do with other people, on my own, getting out for a walk on a Friday. Just show you, it's the usual spot for DOdaily. Spend probably 90% of my time filming here because again, on a day like today, a hot day, it's fantastic just to be out in the fresh air amongst the greenery. The nature helps, the water. I read something this week that water, humans actually need to look at water a lot more. It does wonders for mental health. So being down here probably really helps with my positive outlook. It's not always been the case, but talking about it, get my feelings out there, processing it, as I said before, really helps me stay on top of my own mental health. Whilst this is about encouraging people to use whatever works for them, to take forward all the good things they enjoy in their life, there is a soft approach to mental health, nothing too technical, nothing too dynamic. I'm not going to get into the science of it all, but what it is my personal vlog, checking in each day to let people know where I get it right, where I get it wrong. Quite often happens where it's not working, but where I can use the good things to try and inspire and motivate people to take their things forward, their situation, and perhaps give a different, or sort of, I don't know what I was going to say there, a different outlook on how they can sort of take things forward if they're prepared to listen. I'm not saying that you need to listen. It might be a case of listening to what I say and feeling like you probably do it right yourself, but it's a different angle. And if you are watching, really appreciate all the support. What I'll say before I go any further, please give a thumbs up to this episode. You might just get it around YouTube a little bit more. Really pleased with the views this week, and in the face of adversity and some of the things I've said, that's absolutely fantastic. It possibly proves that people might need to check in with others, might need to hear how others are dealing with things and coping. And of course, please do subscribe to the channel. Do check back on some of this week's episodes because it has been real and as real and raw as ever. Always use those words when I'm explaining what I do. Try to be honest and candid about how I'm feeling. But waking up on Tuesday morning in this city was a real surreal experience. An attack on the people. Of course, if you've tuned into those episodes or you've tuned into the news, you'll know exactly what's happened. Nottingham suffered a bit of an attack. An individual went round and killed 3 people, and it's something that we've all had to sort of find our own way of coping with this week. I don't think anybody has not been affected by what's happened. So whilst I'm out on a walk now, again, it's almost the final chance to speak about it, speak about how I've dealt with it, and in many ways try to put it to bed a little bit. Not that we're ever going to forget, but use some of the feelings I've felt, some of the emotions I've had, to try and come to terms with it a little bit. And then next week, I guess, use it in the way that I'm starting to look forward and put it behind myself, you know, there's lots of people who are grieving a lot worse than I will be myself, you know, or us who have not directly been affected, but it does affect us because it's happened in the place that we call home. And when things happen around us, of course they have an impact. Like I say, I always talk about the positives, I always try to make this positive, but if it's not quite, if there's a negative out there and it needs addressing, that's what I kind of do. So having sort of experienced all that mixture of feelings after what happened, you know, the grief to some extent, you know, feeling for those families who lost family members, and watching what we've watched on the television. Of course, it's not the nicest thing to have to see and watch, but it can almost connect us as well with what we're feeling and how we can do things slightly better ourselves. I get the overwhelming sense in the city, like I've just shown you around there, and just sort of step to one side. If I show you down the river, you know, there's lots of people out enjoying the river tonight. It's quite often the case, but the overwhelming feeling I've got is it's really brought the city together. It's really made people feel that they need to make the most of each other. They need to make the most of what they've got again. Probably not in the way I'm trying to sort of put it across through DOdaily, by doing lots of exciting things and being really, really positive all the time. Not everybody's got that outlook, and it takes all sorts, but in the fact that people need to get out doing the most normal things, you know, and feeling each other's company without all that excitement to some degree. It's just the very normal things that make us all tick. I get a feeling that since COVID, people have struggled, you know, and I hate talking about COVID in many ways, despite the fact it was that made me start a YouTube channel talking about the way I'm feeling, trying to help others and encourage others to live their best life. COVID was a tricky one, and post-COVID I've not really enjoyed people's reaction to it, and each to their own. People do absolutely what they want, but I feel people have clammed up a little bit, you know, forgot how important it is, probably got used to spending time on their own. As much as we all complained about it, we got a little bit used to having that time and not being sort of asked to do this or feeling pressured to do that. So everybody's kind of closed themselves off. I think what I felt this week in Nottingham is that people have really opened up again and realised. I mentioned people down here on the river. I live in an area where there's lots of bars and pubs, which are not always that busy. This week it seems like they've been really, really busy. People have been in the beer gardens. Of course, the weather's out, that really helps, and like it does down here. But I've noticed that rather than when they're normally full and it's full of like, ooh, addiness, people have had a drink, enjoying themselves, you know, making the most of the sun. It's been kind of subdued, quiet conversation where people are just enjoying each other's company. And again, that's taught me a few lessons this week. Not everything sort of in my own personal relationships has been straightforward. One or two people have questioned what I've done and questioned why I do it and why I say this and why I do that. When I put myself out there, that's the sort of way I open myself up. So I'm not complaining about that, but it's made me understand that I've got to be kind of stricter with my time, with my efforts, you know, with the people I choose to channel my energy into as well. You know, so I think again, from all the adversity, from the absolute tragedy of losing people and what happened, there's so much that can be taken from it. And I don't want to be sort of blasé about it just because it wasn't directly linked to me. You know, people might say it's easy to say that. It's not strictly true, because there's been many occasions where I felt personal loss or felt particularly low, or things have happened that have really sidetracked me. And again, I'm always just trying to find the positive. But this week, like I say, I feel from that adversity, a community is re-emerging, and that's a fantastic feeling. Somebody who encourages sort of positivity and community themselves. I do running groups. I'm trying to create a community through this. You know, right now, community is everything in this city. It's everything. about what's going on. People are talking to each other, you know, more people are saying hello to each other in my working environment. People are a little bit friendlier to each other, you know, making an effort. And I think that's such a great thing. I've said it many times this week. Nottingham people are quite straight-laced, quite straightforward, quite blunt at times, and can probably come across a little bit sort of, I don't know what the word is, a little bit just unresponsive. But we're definitely not that, you know. We'll do absolutely anything. We just make sure that we do it properly sometimes, and we don't get sort of taken advantage of. We don't shout too much about what we are or as a city. Not like some of the bigger cities. Not that I'm complaining about what they do. You know, it's fantastic. Sometimes I feel we should, but this week we've come into our own. And again, personally, I can learn lessons from that, of how it sort of affects my life and how it affects everything that goes on around me. That understanding of the way the city seems to have transformed itself through those periods. I'm talking about COVID, this sort of tragedy, you know, really helps me in my journey of trying to sort of articulate a message of how we got to understand what's happening around us. And again, I'm doing that all the time on DOdaily, absolutely every day. I'm trying to find the words to explain myself, to explain what I've done, how it's worked. But this, in the face of adversity, has really helped me understand my sort of feelings amongst all this. I was quite surprised how much it did affect me, but again, I suppose trying to sort of understand feelings and emotions and what makes people tick when something like this happens, I guess all my feelings are kind of bubbling just under the surface a little bit, like I say, because I'm trying to understand it, so they're never too far away. So I did feel it quite hard, not hard in the sense that it really got me down, it really knocked me for six, but it just, those feelings were there. And so when we're in check with them, you know, sometimes they can quite easily take over. I'm not allowed that to happen, because I've made sure I've been true to myself, and where I've had the opportunity to talk about it through DOdaily, through the running groups, through personal relationships, you know, I've spoke about it a lot. Always encourage people when things aren't working to really get the feelings out. Always encourage people to get in touch with me and sort of start that conversation. I will start conversations with people I know are struggling, you know, because I feel it's so important. But like I say, I guess this week it's just sort of helped me break down a few, sort of shake off a few I can't get the words right at the minute, sort of break down those shackles a little bit and just think, no, this is what I do, this is the way I want to sort of put the message across. And because what I am saying is sometimes I probably feel a little bit nervous because that person feels uncomfortable with it, or that person might not relate well to it, but I've had to be true to myself by talking about it. You know, I've kept on top of those feelings where I said it was bubbling on the surface. It could have really affected me. I could have got drawn into the misery and sorrow of what's happened, but I haven't. I've tried to use it to be as positive as I can about what's happening within the city, what's happening for me personally, and like I say, learning those lessons. So I think the message in all that is just to sort of really think about what's happening around us, surrounding. Some people will probably go about the business and think, oh, it's just another place, it's just another situation, it's just another setting. I mention I come here 90% of the time. There must be a reason I do that, and again, this has helped me understand that there's a reason I come down there. Yes, I say it, I don't say it flippantly. I did know this already. I come down here because it really helps me sort of get my head into shape and sort of brush off the bad times and be somewhere where I enjoy and sort of use to be positive about what's good. So if you can take anything from that, please do. That's what DOdaily is all about on a Friday. It's about processing it all. Of course, going into the week before all this, I was really positive anyway, so that would have helped me sort of stay in a good place. And that's again because I used all good situations from last week. So whilst I've used the bad over the last few days, I used all the good things that I did with Kay. We went away to Wales last week. If you'd seen last Friday's episode, I was climbing up Penny Fan, a mountain, really epic adventure. Got to film Wake Up to Walk in a different location, buzzing about that, buzzing about being in a place that I really enjoyed, and really took so much fun. Whilst everything this week's been thought-provoking, last Friday and last weekend, whilst I was in Wales climbing up that mountain, going down to a seaside town, Porthcawl on the South Wales coast, it made me kind of fall in love with the place. Already started thinking about how that might impact me and how I might sort of choose to live my life going forward. Not saying I made any decisions, but I was thinking of how I could potentially do things in the future and go back there and perhaps one day live at the seaside, you know. So again, we've got to use what's around us, you know, and where we draw inspiration from, where we draw feelings from, we've got to use them, think about them, you know, talk about them. That's the most important thing. Talking a lot with Kay about that put me in such a good place to be able to attack the week from what I did on Friday. So whilst it's not been quite the same, not quite so epic in terms of what I've done, looking forward to the weekend. It's Father's Day on Sunday. One of the victims in these Nottingham attacks was a father, you know, so we've all got to realise the importance of those people. Unfortunately, mine passed away when I was a child, but I've got a stepdad, you know. We've got to make sure we think about, make the most of. Myself and Kay will also be visiting her dad, who happens to be at the seaside again, so we've got the luxury of that to put all of this behind us to some degree. And again, we can take the dog, we can take him down to the beach, we can get our part ones in and do all the things we do to be really positive. And I think there's quite a lot in there, quite a long sort of reflection on the week. Don't often spend that long talking about what's happened, but I'm sure you can see my point in that was put in a good place from the last weekend, you know, which kept our heads above the line almost of getting to a point where we might have been too sad and really let the whole thing climb up on top of us. We can take something from the adversity, and that's what we have to do all the time. We have to choose to be positive, to be happy, to be content. Nobody else is going to do it for us. And whilst I really sort of believe there's an issue around mental health, and we have to create this awareness and be there for people. You know, ultimately I also believe in the Kaizen mentality. If you can do anything, follow them on Instagram. You know, there's a lot of inspirational posts about how we can help ourselves taking it forward, and I guess that's what I've been trying to do this week, is just really take it forward, you know, stay on top of it and be positive. Have a great weekend, guys. Hopefully, you know, wherever you're watching from, you're safe, you're happy and you're content. If not, just think about what I've said. You know, a few little pointers in there. I try not to preach, I try not to sort of drill the messages home. There's just a few little pointers of how perhaps we can make the most from what we've got. Today I'm going for a walk around the river. You know, I've got 1 or 2 jobs to do before I can sign off for another one. Relax a little bit and look forward to the next instalment of DOdaily. Monday motivation. Hopefully can find some real positivity from what's happened. You know, I'm trying, digging deep this week, but hopefully from the weekend I can find some real positivity and we can go again. Until then, guys, like I say, have an absolute fantastic weekend. Please like this episode if you've enjoyed what I've said, if you get where I'm trying to get. I understand it's not the most articulate, I'm just being honest about where I'm at. And of course, please do subscribe if you're new. Until then, just doing it.